Welcome to week 2 of EN 102 Business Writing. Hopefully, the first week wasn't that difficult. Looks like everybody was able to keep on top of things. Just mention before we get into this week's readings and assignments, I try to grade everything fairly quickly. I try to do the forums first, so I won't be responding to your introductions unless you really wanted me to, but I will be responding to the reflection forum. I'll try to do a response to everybody's initial post, or to one of the comments on the initial post in the next few days, and that's also how you'll see your grade. There are, because of the way I grade, way it's graded, I have to do rankings for each post as I go, and sometimes if I get interrupted in the middle, not all of the posts will have been ranked. So you may at some point see yourself with maybe as much as half of the points as you thought you would get. Don't freak out until like the Thursday of the week because I may have gotten interrupted in the middle of grading. But expect the grades on those posts to average around 18 points, 18 to 20 points. 19, 20 points means you've done a really good job. 18 points means you did about the work I was expecting of this class. And less of that means that you probably need to improve somewhere. If you have a specific request about how to improve, you can ask me. Um, when it comes to the pre-writing and papers and the other stuff, that's usually graded within a week. So I usually try to get that done Friday, Saturday, or Sunday of the week following the due date. I try to do it sooner rather than later, but I'm teaching a lot of classes this semester, so some things may get pushed back the way I don't want them to. I don't expect the first week to be take too long. It is a fairly simple assignment to grade. All right, so week 2, we had 2 readings from the book. We had 3 readings from the Purdue Online Writing Lab, and we have a reading from WikiHow. The reading from WikiHow is mostly there to help you have a structure if the other readings don't give it to you. And I also gave you a supplemental source from an older textbook, also to give you an idea of how to go about doing this. The reading in the book is mostly about the overall concept of this. It doesn't necessarily address process analysis essays, but it kind of gives you an idea of the kind of things you will be writing. Obviously, chapter 4 is about page design and formats for short reports. And it's basically talking about what the idea of a short report, which most process analyses, at least initial process analyses, will be. What is it you're trying to do? Why are you trying to communicate? How are you trying to communicate? So this goes into some depth into how to get your point across clearly and understandably. And so it gives you examples of doing that. Most of this is fairly straightforward. You do kind of want to consider what you're doing with secondary headings. Not only is how you capitalize it, but what the point is of a secondary heading. It should add to what you're saying already, and so or to help illustrate a specific point. So if you want to do a secondary heading, for example, as they say here, as they show here, if you want to have a kind of an overall topic, you want a secondary heading that kind of gives you a more specific goal. And of course, shows you how to format memos and letters and booklets. All of these, again, remember, there's a lot of crossover between emails and memos. So, what is the purpose of it? Are you talking about incidents? Are you talking about recommendations? Progress has been made, travel. You should always consider go succinct. If you feel like you need to go into depth, explain something that is not proper for a short report. It's basically trying to explain what happened in clear, unambiguous language. If you know your audience very well and they know you and this is okay, sometimes you can throw in a couple of asides or some flavor, of your own personality. But otherwise, you're going to want to direct your writing to just conveying the information as much as you can. So this shows you the kinds of things you'll do in things like incidents and these sorts of reports, and gives you examples of those. Again, most of this is pretty straightforward, and most of it is not 100% relevant to the assignment. It's just these are the types of writing you're going to be expected to do in most work environments. I'm going to focus a little bit on travel reports because this happens a lot. These kinds of reports and travel reports are also very similar to expense reports. I needed to do this thing. It cost this much money for these reasons. So pay attention to what they do here. You don't want to go into too much effort discussing all the reasons why it happened, you want to explain what it was and why it was justified. So the longer you're taking to explain it, the more an accountant or somebody will go, why are you doing this again? So pay attention to these sorts of reports and what their recommendations are. They have some example exercises if you have a desire to look at, give yourself a little bit of extra homework to get used to writing this sort of thing. So that's short reports, and process analysis can be considered a short report. The kind of process analysis I'm going to be asking you to write is kind of an in-between field between short reports and long reports. And this is more about the process analysis, instructions and procedure descriptions. So the process is, how does something get done? And you can do one of two things about this. You can either tell somebody how to do things, or you can look at how something's put together and whether that is effective in putting things together. And real fast, I'm going to jump over to the practice writing over here because I think it is relevant here for what we're talking about for this kind of thing. So you have, I decided to go with the one of the more frustrating things you can have to do with your time and reading about a process and instructions, which is putting together a piece of IKEA furniture. I just kind of grabbed this one at random. It was pretty early on in my search for PDFs. And so you should look at how a Brusali instruction manual is put together. And obviously, IKEA is famous for not having text on their pages. So right away, the instructions have to be conveyed in a way that is graphically makes sense and can be followed. And so what I'm asking you to do is look at this and quickly, you don't have to spend a huge amount of time, just a few hundred words, 300 to 400 words should be, or even 500 words if you need it, should be enough to kind of go, can you briefly describe, for example, in this first image, what is it trying to tell you to do? What is it asking you to do? And I would say, as a kind of a hint, I would say it's trying to get you to identify the pieces you need and how they should be laid out so that you are working on them properly. And that's pretty much all you need to do. You can then explain, of course, and whether or not this step makes sense to you, you can go, I'm not certain what this means, because when they point at it, I'm not certain if they're saying this should be this way, or whether or not that's, or I should be able to put my finger in it or something like that. So feel free to explain whether or not this works, and if it doesn't make sense, why. What this practice writing is going to do is get you used to the idea of working on a practice process analysis, which takes us back to the reading, instructions and procedure descriptions. And this one I want you to pay a little bit more close attention to, understanding what the goal of writing instructions are, how instructions are written, how they should be clear. Remember that clarity is the most important part of this. If there is any chance that somebody could get it wrong, even if it seems like a trivial thing, as if, for example, describing how to make, scoop ice cream properly at a ice cream store, that may seem trivial and like it doesn't matter if you get it wrong. But if somebody goes about it wrong over and over again, they waste ice cream because they're doing it wrong. Their wrist starts hurting it 2 hours into their 5-hour shift, whatever it is, that can lead to a problem. So you want to make certain that when you're describing steps, it is clear, and it's not just clear, but you're describing steps that make certain that they can do the job well. So that is, you have two goals there when you're describing things. So that's what a process analysis is in that version. And so if you choose to use visuals, make certain you have good, clear visuals, that they make sense. For example, it shows you how to fold the letter at the end of completing the letter and send it out. This sort of thing these examples are really useful in helping you understand how to combine visual with text. And then, of course, this varies when you're doing a procedure description, because you're not necessarily telling somebody how to do it. Is you are here talking about how these things work, why they work, what is going on here, and what happens and why it's happening. So you want to tie things together. You want to make links. when this happens, this leads to this happening. And one of the reasons for procedure descriptions to exist is there are inefficiencies here. We go back to here for no good reason, or it isn't clear how this step ties in the next step. And of course, they talk about some other things in this chapter which isn't relevant to the assignment, but you may want to know about. For example, how what you're writing about helps you avoid being liable for mistakes or errors. And of course, a couple of example exercises to help you get it working. So analysis essays, which comes from the WikiHow, is a little bit more, of course, getting ready to write. So you want to think about who your audience is and what you're trying to write to. For example, this IKEA thing is assuming that most people are not that practiced or skilled at assembling furniture, that most people don't read or speak the same language, and that most people are able to follow the directions and are physically capable of performing all the steps. So there's several assumptions being made here. And then make a list of the materials you're going to need if you need them, or list of who is going to be responsible for what, that sort of thing. So for example, if you want to do a process that is discussing how you get information through a few steps up the chain of command, then you need to understand what each person in that chain is, and that would be your list of materials. So on and so forth. So create an outline, get your introduction, that sort of thing. So this can help you, if you follow these steps, can help you put things together. I gave you one other piece of help here from a previous class, and this ties in as well to your pre-writing. So you have this pre-writing guided assignments. So here's the PDF. If you aren't exactly certain how to get to it, it's this PDF here that's underlined on this page. And you just follow through these steps and you read through, and this tells you how to put it together and do all that. You only have to go through, obviously, the first 5 steps. So organize your essay. After that, you don't have to write the first draft or any of this stuff unless you feel like you're ready to do it. And of course, with all pre-writing, this needs to be done a few days before you start working on the actual essay. When it comes to writing in general, that is what these other readings are from the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which is, what is the purpose of a paragraph? A lot of people get paragraphs wrong. You were probably taught in high school how to write what's called a 5-paragraph essay, and some schools might have taught it to you at the freshman level, although they shouldn't have in college. 5-paragraph essay has an introduction paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. This is not a good structure. Don't follow it unless it's actually a really, really short paper. The reason I say don't follow is because it's meant to give you the idea of a structure, but it's not a very good structure. Among other things, a paragraph is supposed to cover a single topic. And what the 5-paragraph essay does is it crams a whole bunch of things together that may not be, maybe more than one single topic, but because you think it should be one body paragraph, you put all together, makes it hard to read or get through or express yourself as clearly as you could. So remember that there should be a set of sentences that are giving you a single topic, a single point. If you're writing a narrative, for example, if you're writing a story, that can be 1 sentence long. If you're writing, most essays you write are going to be 2, 3, 4 sentences. I know you were probably told at one point every body paragraph needs to have 5 sentences in it. That's not the case. It needs to be enough sentences to convey what you're saying thoughtfully. And also remember that your main idea should probably be at the beginning or end of the paragraph, because the stuff that's in the middle may be important, but most people skim over that and retain what's at the beginning and end more. If they see it's a topic in a paragraph that they really care about, they may go back and read more carefully in the middle. But you want to make certain that your main point is at the beginning or end so that they know whether or not this is a paragraph to pay special attention to. And so these help give you some ideas for how to put together paragraphs. What's useful? Here's the topic, the sentence idea. When do you start this? You have new ideas and all that stuff and transitions. So this gives you all the basic bones of all that sort of thing. They also have another section if you want to look at that, which is paragraphing, how to make certain your pages look balanced, all that sort of stuff. That is a useful section, but I wasn't going to assign it because obviously it's short and mostly graphic. This gives you an overview of what the point of essays are, but this gives you examples of each kind of essay. So, for example, you're doing an expository essay because it's a process analysis. So this gives you some points to pay attention to, and this helps you understand your thesis statement. And a thesis statement is you're making a promise to your audience. I'm going to tell you how to properly work in an ice cream shop scooping ice cream all day long. And so that is your thesis statement. And so when you're reading it, I know I'm looking for you to explain how you're going to do this, how I can keep doing it without hurting myself, or able to maintain a good pace and all that sort of thing for the rest of the day. So that is what you want to do: is you make a promise and you explain what that promise is. So you want to be clear, you want to be precise, you don't want to be vague. You don't want to say something along the lines of, it can be really difficult to work in fast food or places where you help customers. That sentence doesn't tell me anything specific what the essay is going to be. It's making a general statement that yes, can be true, but it doesn't help guide me where I need to go. All right, so we've covered a couple of the assignments already. Obviously, the quiz is useful to help you get some answers of what's going on here. Look for key points in these books. Because there is enough little readings assigned, I only gave you 2 questions for each. Obviously, I think this chapter 7 is a little bit more important than chapter 1 or chapter 4. So pay a little bit more attention to chapter 7, even if I only ask you 2 questions, and see if you can answer these. Now, each of these are worth 2 points. Some weeks, one of the questions may be worth more or less, depends on what's going on that week. But in general, 2 points. And the way you get 2 points is, rather than give me one sentence or one short answer, try to give me at least a couple sentences. Try to give me a more thoughtful, full answer from the book or from what you're understanding. Um, Not only tell me what it is, but also explaining why that works that way. And so that is the quiz. And obviously, I've shown you the pre-writing for the process analysis essay and the practice assignment, which helps you get warmed up for it. Here is the process analysis essay assignment. The purpose of the assignment is to help you understand how to clearly explain how something is done, or how to explain a process has gone through. This will be about 500, 750 words. You'll notice I don't give you page counts. The reason for that is you're turning in online different people's formats, especially document formats, can change, especially fonts and things like that, can change how long something is. So I just do by word count, and that's how I know the word count here. Almost every program tells me how long words are. So you make it 500, 750 words. If you go less than 500 words, you're not going to get a good grade. That's just should be pretty basic. And don't pad sentences. If you aren't certain how to get to word count, add details. So if my process analysis about scooping ice cream is too short, then you can add another detail here, which is proper cleaning and handling of the scoop, or how to clean up in between when there's a slow period, or whatever else. Add details. Don't just try to, this is very, very important, or it can, or you really, really want to do this, or things like that. That doesn't work. So these are the elements you're going to want in here. You have a thesis statement. Your paper is organized chronologically, either in instructions or in describing how something works. Gives me a little bit of background information, so you want to have an introduction that kind of tells me why I should care about this. Detail, trouble spots, that sort of thing. And so you're going to use MLA format, which of course I was looking at the Purdue Online Writing Lab if you have questions about it. Obviously, if you are not certain how an MLA format is, MLA guide, MLA style introduction here, and overview. This gives you the overall basic. Here's the style center. That lets you order the textbook if you'd like to have a textbook, or the formatting style guide, and you can see how sample paper is formatted. So pay attention to this format: your name, my name, class number, date. If you're going to do page number, do it in the header area, and do your name and then the page number field. Have a title. Always try to have a good title, and the title shouldn't be process analysis essay. It should be a title. how to properly scoop ice cream all day long without losing your mind or your wrist. That's a title. Gives me a clue where you're going to go with it. And then this gives you other examples how to lay things out and read these comments to help you understand what the commentary is. Because you are doing an essay, you can do this in a list, an unordered list or ordered list. That's the ones with the dots or the period or the numbers. But again, you want to be able to give some information about things as you go. So it should not just be a list. All right. And last thing is most of these assignments have a rubric to come with them. You should pay attention to the rubric. You'll notice that they have point and totals here. I usually don't go to the top of the point total, but for example, if it says 12 points here, even though there's 7.28, most of these are 8s, but one of these is 12. So if I, for example, for most people who do decent work on an area like this, I will give them 10 points. If you've done exceptional work, I'll give you 12 points, and so on and so forth. Usually I go for the middle of this range. So if you're doing a decent job and it's worth 8 points, I'll give you like 7.5 points. If you've done exceptional, I'll give you 8, so on and so forth. And then I add all of the scores up, and at the end you have your overall score and your total. If you have any questions about any of these steps, feel free to ask me. I will have week 3 ready for you to look at. Weeks 3 and 4 ready for you to look at. Probably in the middle of this week, and then after that, again, the same thing will be true for weeks 5 or 6. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the general Ask Isaac area or in my office hours or send me an email. Thank you and have a good week.